Today is Saturday, July 16th, 2016, and this is the Bunny Slippers of Evil Job Seekers Call-In Show, presented by Evil Bunny Consulting. I'm your host, Tyrone Griffin, and if it's 3 p.m. you have on your bunny slippers, you are not looking for a job. Welcome first-time and returning listeners and viewers. In this show, we discuss strategies and tactics of job search, staying motivated, and dealing with career transition. For more tips, resources, daily motivations, and to listen to archive shows, go to the website bunnyslippersofevil.com. There you also find links to our Facebook page, our Twitter handle, and our YouTube channel. If you are listening live, you can call in with your questions at 347-202-0929. Again, that number is 347-202-0929. Or hit us up on Facebook Live. Evil Bunny, first, a word from our sponsors. Evil Bunny Consulting is the alternative to expensive outplacement. They give company-sponsored job search workshops as well as the one-on-one job search bootcamp. For more information, go to bunnyslippersofevil.com. Resume Edit is the high-quality resume writing company of certified resume writers starting at $35. You can find them online at resume4edit.com or call 404-860-2473. Be sure to tell them you heard about them on the Bunny Slippers of Evil Job Seekers podcast. If you're thinking or about to look for a job in today's world, you will find a new reality in the job search process. The world has changed. Job search today is much more complicated than 5 years ago. Volumes of resumes, more applicant screening systems, depersonalized applications, panel interviews, team hiring, long complicated applications, branding and social media. Yep, the world has changed. But have you? Are you still trying yesterday's approach? Why struggle and miss out on today's opportunities? Career Oyster is here to help. Great coaches, the latest resources, unique strategies, personally tailored to your job search. Find out the new reality and how you can prevent costly mistakes. For a free 45-minute private session with head coach Howard Caddy, go to careeroyster.com. Find the facts now, you'll be glad you did. Remember their motto, the world is your oyster, be the pearl. Well, everybody, welcome. Thank you for tuning in again. Everybody who's new, we're still working out the bugs and kinks on this Facebook Live, and so far so good. Today's show, this week's show, well, first of all, the theme for this month is taking chances in your job search. Last week we talked about taking chances with your in the interview. This week we're going to talk about taking chances in with your resume. And I apologize, I'm sweating here because I got a nice, beautiful sun hitting me. So if you see me wiping my head a couple of times, I apologize. Okay. Hey, good morning, Vince. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Much love, Goldbacks. So anyway, this week's show is taught taking chances with your resume. Now, let's talk about resumes. But we can't talk about resumes without the context of the job search process. Okay. The resume, first of all, people think the resume is the end all. You know, somebody's in job search, the first thing they do, I got to get my resume done. And they think that, okay, once I get my resume done, then I'm set. Then I'm done. I'm good. I can roll. No, the resume is not the end of the job search process. The resume is truly just the beginning. Okay. The resume is just one tool in your job search toolkit. So it's not the end all be all. I got my resume and I'm good to go. It's not like that at all. But let's talk about it. As longtime listeners will know, I always say job search is a lot like dating. Okay. And a resume is no different. So think about this a minute. You go to an interview or you give somebody your resume. And what you're saying to that person is, okay, think about it from a dating standpoint. You see somebody you're interested in, you'd like to get to know them better. You'd like to make a connection. What do? Do you walk up, guys? Do you walk up, or ladies even, okay, either one. Do you walk up to that person and say, hey, here's a list of all the people I've been with? No, you don't do that. That's what your resume is kind of saying. Here's all the places I've worked. Okay, and again, think about it from the standpoint of job search. You're not going to, if you're trying to date somebody, you're not going to tell them about your past conquests. You know, there's one question a hiring manager has. It's the same question that a potential partner has. It's just one question. What can you do for me? That's the essence of job search. That's the essence of dating. You date people because they can do something for you, whether it be make you feel better about yourself, help you get to the next level or whatever. Love you, cherish you, all that is good. But at the end of the day, it's like, what can we do for each other? Okay? So again, you don't walk up to that new person and tell them all the conquests, all your ex-girlfriends and boyfriends. So why would you do that in the job search? So that's the first thing to think about when you talk about your resume. We always, and we've all been trained. Oh, and by the way, I am not an expert in job search. I don't profess to have any degrees in it. I'm just a guy with an opinion. So anything I say here, you take it with a grain of salt, bucket of salt, whatever you want to take it with. These are just my opinions. I don't have any plaques on the wall as a life coach or anything else. I just been through enough stuff. So anyway, back to the resume. We were always taught to do our resumes in school or wherever we're taught, and it's all chronological. Here's a list of the companies I worked for. And then we get into the interview. And what do? The standard interview is we sit here and we tell me about this job. 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 Again, take it back to dating. Here's a list of all the people I've been with. Really? Tell me about her. Tell me about her. Tell me about her. See how crazy that sounds, okay? But we've always been taught to be chronological. And I'm not saying there's not a place for a list of your companies on your resume. I'm not saying that you shouldn't put your past company, because that's good information. There is value to that information. What I'm saying is, and last week we talked about the interview. Think about it in the context of that. If you missed last week's show, it's on my Facebook feed for live, and it's on YouTube as well. But the thing in the interview, if you're being interviewed, do you really want to talk about your past jobs? Or do you want to talk about what I can do for you? When you ask somebody out for dinner, do you want to talk about your past relationships? Or do you want to talk about what I can do for you, what we can do together, what kind of good relationship we can have? So take that thought out of your mind that you have to be chronological. Okay, if we're going to talk about taking a chance, then take a chance. This is when you're taking a chance. And yes, I have notes this week, so everybody on the bunny slippers drinking game, you don't get to drink up for that one. But so anyway, there are two kinds of resumes. The chronological and the functional. What I'll talk about also is the marketing plan. Let me take a step back. I don't have a show dedicated to the marketing plan for this month, but let me explain the marketing plan, because again, you can't take the resume and isolate it without talking about some of the job search process. So let's real quick talk about the marketing plan. What's your marketing plan? Marketing plan is, to me, it's more important than your resume. Because what everybody does, think about what people do. They always go and they give somebody their resume and say, hey, keep out and look for a job for me. Here's my resume. I am not going to memorize your resume. And let me say this publicly, live and everywhere else. If you send me your resume, and people do, and ask me to keep my eye out for jobs in my company for you, to go look online and see if there's a match for something you do, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to say, okay, and I'm going to close your resume and I'm never going to open it again. It's your job search. It's not my job search. It's your job search. Okay? So don't ask me to do that. Don't ask me to do anything that you can do for yourself. You can very easily go to companies' websites and look for jobs, just like anybody else. Okay? So that's the first thing. Now, let's back to the marketing plan. Your marketing plan is just that. It's a plan. It's something that you can have a conversation about. When you're doing your networking, somebody agrees to meet you for a coffee one morning. You don't want to pull your resume out. I mean, honestly, just sit there and go through it. That's boring. And having been on the sides of those conversations, it's kind of sucks. What you really want to do is have a conversation with this person. A resume is not a good conversation piece. Okay, because it's just chronological. Here's what I've done. Marketing plan. A marketing plan looks somewhat like your resume, but the top of it, you have your objective and things like that. the marketing plan has what are your core competencies, your 4 or 5 things that you are known for, that you do well, or you want to be known for. Okay, or if you're just coming out of school, the things you want to do well. These are the things I want to focus on in my career. Those core competencies are on your marketing plan. Okay, what kind of companies you're looking to work in. Now, here's the cool part. Whoever you're meeting with, if you got a coffee, somebody meet you a coffee to talk about, opportunities, your job search, and your marketing plan, you can identify what kinds of companies you're looking at. Large companies, small companies, this industry, this part of the market. I got a question. I'll answer that in just a second, Vince. Thanks for writing in. Let me finish this thought, and I will answer that question we got on Facebook Live. But anyway, as I'm saying, you can tailor your search, things that you're looking for, to fit the company that you're actually interviewing that day. So if it's a large company, you put in large company. You play it. Okay, you make them think that they are the one. But let me get to that question. But thank you, Vince. The question is, how do you answer that question in an interview? Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Let's be honest. In job search, we really don't know where we're going to be at in 5 or 10 years. All we want to do is do the best we can, and if an opportunity arises, be able to take advantage of that opportunity based on our background and our desires. So if somebody says where you want to be in 5 or 10 years, and somebody, the canned answer is, I want to be CEO, or where do you see yourself in 5 years in your job? It's like, ooh, that person's a go-getter. That's a patent answer. What I would say is think about that question and answer it in the context of, well, I hope to be able to continue to be able to contribute to this company, to being able to take advantage of opportunities that this company may present me, and to do a good job in them. Because, come on, if you looked at where you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and look at where you are now, would you have ever said, this is where I want to go? Things happen. We don't plan where we're going to be. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I was in a totally different industry. In the 6 years since then, in my career, I've worked in 3 separate industries. I worked in hospitality, I worked in healthcare, and I worked in telecom. Wasn't by chance. It wasn't on purpose. It wasn't like that. I want to get this, and this. Things happen. Opportunities develop. If I were a hiring manager and I had to ask somebody, where do you want to be in 5 or 10 years? I wouldn't want the candidate. I want your job. Well, you don't know what my job is. You don't know what my job pays, and this is as far as you want to go? Really? If I'm a hiring manager, and I had to ask that question, because sometimes, HR, you got to ask those questions, or somebody, your boss says, hey, ask this question. Give an honest answer. Say, it depends on what the opportunities are come across my desk. Reorgs change everything. You could be on a trajectory of a path of going somewhere, and there's a reorg, and all of a sudden, boom, you got to shift, and it goes a totally different way. Okay, so I'm sorry, Vince. I hope I didn't punt that, but to answer that question, I would say I wouldn't want to give the canned answer of I want your job, or I want to be CEO, or I want to be whatever, because people think, oh, that makes you sound like a go-getter. I want to be a realist. Say, I hope to come in every day and contribute, to do the best job I can to contribute to this organization. If opportunities develop during that time, as opportunities develop, I want to be in a position where if they meet with my background and my skills and my goals, that I can be positive for the company, then I want to take them. Got another question. Leilani, termite, that was a good one. I'm not even going to repeat that, but that was a good one. Yeah, say that in an interview, okay? But for those of you who aren't from my high school, yeah, I got much love for these people. I appreciate them tuning in. But anyway, hopefully that answered the question, Vince. Yeah, great, thank you. So let me get back to the topic. But anybody else got any questions? Please feel free. I'm still learning how this Facebook Live thing is working, and I'll be honest. So far, this is great. But anyway, I'm broadcasting in Venezuela from my living room. But anyway, so we're talking about resumes. We're talking about, how to take chances with resumes. And I talked about the chronological resume. And again, to just quickly rehash, what I was saying is, if you're trying to meet somebody, the first thing you don't do is tell them all the past people you've been with. And think about it with a resume. What you're showing a company is all the past places you've worked. And to me, not only is that kind of weird, but it's also, I've worked in 8 companies. Well, we're number 9. Who's number 10? When I go into a job, I don't want to go in there and say, well, I want to work for this company for 2 years and I'm going to leave, because my resume might show me I've been with this place for a couple of years, this place for a couple of years, this place for a couple of years. Why you been jumping around jobs so much? Oh, well, and then you say, but you're telling me, it's like, go back to the dating thing. It's like, ladies, you meet a guy who he's a playboy. He's, Hugh Hefner, but 50 years younger. I've been with everybody, but I want to marry you. Really? Okay. I believe that one. That's the same thing in job search. You're saying, I've been with these companies. I've been with this one a year, this one 2 years, this one 4 years, this one 3 years, but I'm going to stay with you forever. So don't, if that's what your background is, that you've been with several companies, and, a lot of us have that, particularly more of us now. I'm not saying don't put that on your resume. I'm saying don't make that the starting point on your resume. What you want to do is, what I would suggest, instead of a chronological resume, is use a functional resume. Okay, a functional resume, it starts out like your marketing plan. It's got your core competencies. It doesn't have the company you're looking for, but it has your core competencies, and it focuses on the things that you feel you do well. Okay, those things, I'm a good data manager, data analyst, or whatever, those things, and then a little blurb about each one. Now, here's the important thing, and this is what I learned from my best friend, not my best friend, one of my great friends, Howard Caddy, who's been on the show a couple of times. He's my best job search friend, I'll say that. Every bullet on your resume for every job you've done needs to support one of your core competencies. If you've got 4 core competencies, every bullet for the jobs you've done because you do have a chronological section in a functional resume. But it's secondary. The important part, like my resume is 2 pages, and that brings up another question, another thought, because I was writing from my notes. How many pages should your resume be? People will get on ABC News or wherever and different TV shows and tell you that your resume should be 2 pages. You should keep it to 1 page. It should be 3 pages. If anybody's ever filled out a military resume, those things are like a book. How long should your resume be? Depends on your experience. If you're fresh out of college and you're trying to get your first job and you got a 3-page resume, you better be a Rhodes Scholar. You better have done some serious training abroad. You better have done some serious stuff, some serious job related stuff. By the same token, I've been in corporate America for 20 some years. If I have a 1-page resume, it's just a bunch of bullets. Okay. So how long should the resume be? It depends. Resume should be paragraphs instead of bullets. It depends on, and termite. Thanks for that question, Leilani, I apologize. You can make your bullets, I would say your bullets are paragraphs. And what I mean by that is each bullet tells something. So it's kind of a sentence or two about what you did on that job. Okay. So it's kind of a hybrid of, it definitely have bullets, in my opinion, but each bullet should be a sentence or two about something that you did on that job. And remember, all of those bullets should support your core competencies. All of those bullets, all through all the jobs you've done, what you're trying to tell somebody is, on this job, I did this. Core competency number 3. That's why I did it. So you should have, and if you go to TyroneGriffin.com, you'll see my resume. You can download a copy of it. Here, I'll apply for jobs anywhere. No, but you'll see the website is my resume, but there's also a link where you can click on it and download a paper copy, a Word document or a PDF of my resume. But it's a functional resume. And the first page, the whole first page is just functional stuff, my core competencies, the whole first page. The second page is just the jobs, list of the jobs. And yeah, I got the chronological section and there's a bullet or two for each job, but those bullets support all of those sentences. Each of those bullets supports all of my core competencies. And that's what you want to do. You want to make it so that the focus is on what your core competencies are. Take it back to dating. You meet somebody, you want to introduce yourself, you want to tell them what you're good at. That didn't come out right. You want to tell them what kind of person you are. Okay? You want to tell them, I'm a great chef. I clean up after myself. Here are my hobbies. Here's an idea of who I am. I am not the people I've dated. I am this person. I want to talk to you about who I am. Same thing with the job search. You want to talk about the what you are, the person you are. People don't hire resumes, they hire people. You want to talk about, here are the things that I've done. Or I'm sorry, here are the things that I do, that I like doing, those type of things. Okay, so make sure I lose my train of thought sometimes. So yeah, everything should support your core competencies. You want the conversation with a hiring manager to be about your core competencies. And I jumped around, I apologize, but I was talking about the marketing plan earlier. If you have a sit down with somebody, you want to talk about your marketing plan. That's a great thing to do because people love for people to ask their opinion. So if you sit down with somebody for coffee and you say, here's my core competencies. Right? We got right back to the core competencies. Okay. We got right back to that. Yep. That's a good question, Felicia. I'm gonna answer that one in a minute too. Definitely a good question. But people, when you talk about, when you have a conversation with somebody over coffee, you want to have a conversation with them. You don't want to sit there and go through your resume and make it like an interview. Yes, it's an interview, but you want to be smooth about it. Okay. It's like when again, dating, you don't go up to a girl and say, hey, I think you're beautiful. Give me your phone number. I want to marry you. No, you don't do that. Question about putting your full address on your resume. Don't put your address on your resume. Let me say that in a different term. Don't put your address on your resume, okay, period. If you have business cards, don't put your address on your business cards. Why? People have Google Street View, okay? That's one reason. And there's crazy people in job search, trust me. The other reason, and I've had this happen to me. A job I interviewed for, they liked me, but they didn't give me an offer, and I heard this from the recruiter who was talking to them, because they looked at where I lived and they said, well, that's gonna be a long ride for him. It wasn't on my resume. They kind of asked me, where do you live? And people can't ask that in an interview, but if they ask you, what you gonna say? Don't ask me. And they decided they thought it was a long ride. Here's the thing: if I'm in Atlanta, I live in Hiram, Georgia. I love Hiram. It's a great metropolis of about 1,800 people. If I'm looking for a job, I'm not putting Hiram, because I'm not looking at Hiram. I'm looking in Atlanta, or I'm looking at Philadelphia, or wherever. I'm pulling the area I want to, I'm targeting for a job. That's the area that I'm putting on my resume. So I'm putting Greater Philadelphia area. I'm putting Chicago. I'm putting it when I'm in LinkedIn. I don't put Hiram in the zip code. I put it in a zip code where I'm looking. I'll do a show on LinkedIn and talk about how all that happens. Wait a minute. How do you have that conversation when the one interview doesn't contribute to the conversation, making it difficult to the interview? Okay. Got about 5 minutes left on this, and I'm gonna try to answer that question, Vanessa, too. Felicia, you asked a question about ageism. Anyway, let me make sure. As far as your address on your resume, don't put it. Put your contact information, email, and phone number. That's all people need, because your resumes get passed around. You don't want everybody knowing where you live. Okay, especially you're particularly single female. The question on ageism. Yeah, ageism exists. Okay, there's a whole lot of different varieties of discriminations that exist, and ageism does exist. The question was, should you put your year of graduation on your resume? If you're in college, you're about to graduate, yeah. If you're, like us, with a few grades, the only dates on my resume, and I only go back, and I got to change it right now. They say go back 10 years. You go back 10 years of job experience. As far as your education, you just put what you have. You don't have to put the year you graduate. I agree. There's no sense in putting the year you graduate because people will start trying to do math. But I would say only go back 10 years on your resume. Vanessa, you had a question. Question is, how do you have a conversation when the one interview doesn't contribute to the conversation, making it a difficult interview? You want to have a conversation, and you want to get them to have a conversation. We talked about last week with the interview. What you want people to do is, instead of trying to read your resume, you want to ask them a simple question. What is it that somebody in this job has to do well to be successful? That's all you want to ask the person. What does this person have to do to be successful? They'll tell you. And then, hey, you talk the rest of the interview if that's the case. But get them to tell you what they're looking for. Okay? If somebody lets me do all the talking, oh, cool. Okay? But the first thing I'm going to do is find out what they're looking for and then take it from there and just run with it. And, write my notes. We talked about last week. There's nothing wrong with taking a piece of paper and writing down notes. I don't see that as a strike against you if you're in job search. Vince got a question. I'm probably going to keep this longer than the show lasts 30 minutes, but I'm going to stay on Facebook Live probably a little longer until I answer some of these questions. Vince had a good question. He worked for 20 years and he's been out of work for 20 years. For that 2 years you've been out of work, what have you been doing? Have you been volunteering? Have you been working? What have you been doing? Have you been going back to school? Fill in that gap. You need to do, I always tell people, if you're out of work, you need to do some kind of volunteer work. And the reason being is because nobody knows if you're getting paid or not. Say you're an accountant and you're out of work and you go and volunteer your services at a nonprofit organization. You give them 2 hours a week or whatever to do their books. You put that on your resume. You don't have to necessarily say, I was volunteering here and I wasn't getting paid. Nobody have to know. You don't have to say you've been out of work. I've been working with this organization, for 2 years. I've been doing their books. But you want to do something that gives you some experience. When you're out of work, yes, you're looking for a job. That's the big thing you're doing. But at the same time, fill in the blanks. So definitely do some volunteer work during the time. Be able to fill in that gap. Working mothers who've been just returning to the work world, been home with your kids. You've been a stay-at-home mom. I've been a stay-at-home mom. I've been doing this. These are the things I've been looking at doing. But be doing something, I guess, is the point. Don't just be sitting home, catching up on Game of Thrones. I recently just did a binge watch of 6 seasons of Game of Thrones. That's an awesome series, but that's a whole nother show. But anyway, yeah, so that's what you want to do is do some volunteer work. I hope Vanessa, I think I answered your question first too. So anyway, let me make sure I hit all my points. You want to talk to people face to face. Stay-at-home dads too. You're right. You want to talk to people face to face. You want to have conversations with people. You want to make, when I said earlier, you want to make your resume as unimportant as possible. You really want to make your resume as unimportant as possible. And the reason being, you want people, it's like manners. You want people to be so gung-ho about having you that then they go, oh yeah, I like this guy. Yeah, give me your resume. It's just a formality so that HR doesn't come down on them. But you want them to like you as a person and what you can articulate about your job and what you can do for them. Okay? It's like this. Dating. You meet a young lady, young guy, whatever. You want that person. You want to have a great conversation. And then they go, okay, give me your phone number. Do you list the volunteer work as work experience or volunteer experience? It depends. If it's volunteer experience, that's volunteer where you're an accountant and you're volunteer with Habitat for Humanity building homes, yeah, that's volunteer work. If you're an accountant and you're volunteer with Habitat for Humanity, not building homes, you're doing their books, you consider that work. I would say the guideline is if the work is geared toward what you do, call it work experience. If it's something totally out of your ballpark, again, you're an accountant, you're helping to build houses, hammering nails, call it volunteer work. Okay, but remember, nobody has to know. If somebody says, well, you work for Habitat for Humanity, we don't really know what you did. But if you were doing an accounting thing, you want to say that. You want to make it appear because that's work. That is work. So I'm gonna keep this live for just a few more minutes, but everybody, the podcast people who are just listening to the podcast, thank you, and we'll talk again next week. Bye bye. Everybody else on Facebook Live, this is awesome. I'm learning how this all works. But if you have any more questions, I'm gonna make sure I got through all my points, all my bullets. I said people don't hire resumes; they hire people. So you want to have conversations with people. That's the most important thing to remember. If you're having that sit down conversation over coffee to talk about something, yeah, the person across the table knows that you want a job. Just like guys, guess what? When you go up to a girl and say, "Hey, you're beautiful," they know pretty much what we really want, even though we're not just like putting it out there. We're saying stuff like, "Hey, I'd like to get to know you better." Okay, you got to be smooth about it. You got to be tactful about it. Okay, the greatest thing is you meet somebody and there's this commercial where the guy is there's a beautiful woman sitting at a wedding with her mother. Yeah, Vince, I did my push-ups this morning. But the woman is sitting there with her mother at a table at a wedding, and people are coming over, and they're guys are asking her to dance and everything, and she's like, "Oh no, thank you, thank you." She's blowing them all off, and this one guy goes up and asks her mother to dance, and goes out. Her mother's so happy, she goes out there with a dance, and the guy is trying to get to the girl. We all know that, but he was so smooth. Okay, that's the difference. He was smooth about it. Okay. Anyway, looks like I got no more questions. My go back friends, I thank you so much for tuning in. I thank you for your questions. I'm still learning how this Facebook Live. Oh, one more. I have 3 resumes, no joke, writing, editing, and journalism. Do you remember having more than one? Here's a question. Somebody has 3 resumes, and this is something that I meant to talk about, but I didn't. Okay. When I was in job search, somebody told me to tailor your resume for the job. And that was a little different than having 3 resumes, because that was something where they were telling me, every job you apply for, tailor your resume for that job. Felicia, you have 3 different distinct writing, editing, and journalism. Those are somewhat distinct paths. I would say you want to emphasize one versus the other on different jobs, or you might want to, instead of 4 core competencies, those are your competencies. My competencies in writing, my competencies in editing, and my competencies in journalism. And your whole first page is just those 3 things. Now, depending on what kind of job you're applying for, you may want to switch the order of them. You might want to put writing first, editing, then journalism, or maybe you put journalism first, editing, and writing. But they're kind of connected. They're in the same area. But I would say if you can structure them right, you could get away with one, I think. If you could structure it in such a way that you emphasize all 3 of them equally, yeah, you can get away with 1 resume, because if you're going for a journalism position, one of your competencies is journalism. And you would have your competencies and then have some bullets under that, talking about, why that's supporting why that's a core competency. And remember, all the bullets after the jobs, the sentences, those bullets will all support one of your 3 core competencies. Okay, that's the goal. Okay, it's to support one of those core competencies. Just got Paris joined. Thank you so much, Miss Cotton. Bless you, love you. Thank you for joining as well. Y'all missed a great show. But anyway, hopefully, Felicia, that answered your question. You can get away with 1 if you do a functional resume with each of them highlighted. Okay, so that would be a way to get away with it. Now, I tried to do 1 resume per job applied for, and I'm going to tell you right now, I got so lost doing that. I mean, literally, when I was doing it, like the second day, I'm like, okay, what resume did I send to these people? So anyway, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm gonna end this. Sorry for you guys, Nelv, and everybody who pulled in late. We had a great show. Go back and listen to it. It'll be on YouTube as well. But everybody, thank you so much, all my friends, my go backs. Much love to the Newberg. And I will do this again next week. This has really been awesome. This is a great experience. I've been doing this podcast for going on 6 years now, and I feel really regenerated now. Just doing this now live. So anyway, everybody take care, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.